All right, so it is that time of year again. Bam, 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 bam. Yes, Halloween is coming. And in honor of the season, I thought it'd be fun to analyze the original masterpiece, John Carpenter's classic from 1978, the original Halloween. Now, this time of year, usually the last 2 weeks of September going into October, that's when if there are movies that come out that are horror movies during the year, unless I really want to see it very badly, like for example, Halloween Kills came out, was streaming on HBO Max a few months ago. I'll usually save it till October, to the end of September, October, and watch it it's more festive to watch it around Halloween time. I generally really like horror movies, and there's a couple of subgenres like the slasher flick that I generally really like. I like them a lot. So, but I usually wait till now if I can hold off. I'll wait till now to watch it, just to be more festive. So I thought it'd be fun to analyze the original slasher masterpiece, John Carpenter classic, Halloween 1978 with Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, it is technically not the first slasher flick. Some of you may not know that. It's passed into common understanding as the first slasher movie. It really isn't. There's a movie, either Black Christmas or Dark Christmas, that I've mysteriously never seen from 73, 74, somewhere thereabouts, that is actually accredited as the first slasher flick. But what Halloween, I'm almost positive, is the first of. So the question on the table is, this is a horror masterpiece. As far as I'm concerned, Halloween is almost a perfectly realized example of the genre horror movie and slasher movie. And I thought it'd be fun to analyze why. It's easily my favorite horror movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. So I thought it'd be fun to analyze what about it makes it so particularly effective. Now, the first thing is something that it is probably the originator of, as far as I know, it is the first movie, for good or for ill, to establish the trope, the killer who can't be killed. the villain, he's not dead yet. He's not dead yet. Should have been dead. This is the first movie where, the killer just never dies. He just comes back to life and comes back to you 50 times. Now, that trope has become actually somewhat exhausting and obnoxious. It's even been used a lot these days by action movies, where it becomes slightly unbearable. I think even the first Iron Man, the guy doesn't die, keeps coming back to life. It usually shows up in a lot of action movies. Some of the Spider-Mans. Nowadays, the trope is exhausted. It's really tiring. Sometimes if I'm watching a movie at home, an action movie in particular, I may even fast forward through the last 10 minutes because I just don't feel like having, he's not dead, he's not dead. It gets tiring. But back then, you got to put yourself in the mind of the original moviegoer. Circa 1978, you're sitting in a theater somewhere around Halloween, and I can't even possibly describe how effective this would have been because nobody would have seen it coming. She's the classic scene in this movie is when Jamie Lee Curtis is panting, and he sits up right behind her, and he goes, dun, 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 dun. That must have sent a shock. I wish I could have been in the original audience seeing that first run, because that would have sent a shockwave through the audience. If you have an opportunity, if you're a fan of horror movies around this time of year, if it looks like a movie is going to be particularly good, I suggest you go see it in the theater. It's really fun. That's part of why I was so into horror movies when I was younger. I think I saw the original, saw Friday the 13th Part 2 in the theater. I didn't see Halloween originally in the movie theater. I'm not quite that old yet, but I did see Halloween 2 in the movie theater. And it was fun back then. You go on a Friday night with your friends, and it was like a big party. So I suggest you see it in the movie theater when a jump scare is effective, and when something like that particular scare where he sits up behind her, I can't even tell you how much the movie theater probably would have freaked out. People would have lost their minds. So that alone would have been worth the price of admission. Now, the other thing that Halloween does particularly well, interestingly enough, because the movies that have followed in its wake have been a lot more gory and, astronomical body counts, it's not all that violent. What it establishes in the first part of the movie is actually why I love the movie so much. Once he gets past the, by the way, they're going to be spoilers, so if you haven't seen Halloween, I suggest you watch it this Halloween night. I watch it every year on Halloween. It surprisingly holds up every single year because it's so economical and moves so quickly. But watch it on Halloween with the lights off, all alone in the house. Really try and maximize the freak out effect. But the one thing that it does really well, that really sold me on it when I was a kid, I think the first time I saw it, I was 7th or 8th grade, and I watched it on TV. And I was hooked from the music. From the opening sequence, I was hooked. And with the little kid in the clown mask, I was like, this is possibly the best movie ever made. I'm totally sold. When you find out that he murders his sister, and you find out that it's a little kid, like a 6-year-old kid in a clown mask. I was like, is this the best movie of all time? I don't know. It could be. Then it goes into the theme music. The theme music alone is fantastic. That is when I was younger, anytime there was a piano, okay? I didn't really know any songs with the piano, but anytime a piano would show up, at a party, anywhere, I'd sit down and start banging out the din 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 din. Knew how to play that. So I'd do it almost every time I saw a piano. Now, one of the best parts of the movie is actually the suspense it builds at the beginning. There's a couple of really classic, what it does particularly effective at, that is really underrated as far as I'm concerned. If a movie can do this to me, I'm really, really sold on it. And this does it really well, whereas it gets under your skin and creeps you out at the beginning with these just small little scenes that are really effective. For example, the scene where he's driving past her in the car and she's like, hey, jerk, speed kills. And he stops. And you're just like, it's really unnerving. And it's expertly handled how they do it. When she looks out the window, she's sitting in class and he's behind the clotheslines. And she looks again and he's gone. And the really, really good one was where they trip the little kid, they're bullying him and he smashes his pumpkin. And then he starts running, runs right into Michael Myers. And it's a big jump scare. I mean, I can't even tell you how effective those things would have been in the movie theater. At home, they're really fun and they work. That gets you under your skin and starts to creep you out in a way that's really effective. So that's one of the things it does really well. The other thing it does particularly well, without it, it might not even be considered a classic, is Donald Pleasence, Dr. Loomis, who kind of hovers over the proceedings like an Old Testament prophet. Is really, really fun. He's like, death has come to your small town. And for years I watched, and what I saw behind those eyes was pure evil. It's just so great. I mean, it's fun even talking about it. That is one of the core, those two elements alone elevate it into masterpiece status because it does a really good job of getting under your skin before the body count takes place. Really creeps you out. It's a very economical movie. Clocks in under 2 hours. So it does its work. That's why you can watch it over and over again. Another movie that's really good at using some of the same things. Another movie of the time, actually, Jaws, is really good at suspense. You don't recognize that there's not that big of a body count in Jaws either because it's so good at getting under your skin with the dun 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 dun. So that's what really elevates the movie to masterpiece status. It isn't just the slasher parts. It's before the slasher part. It really does a great job, very economical, of getting under your skin and unnerving you, of making his presence, creeping you out with his, is he there, isn't he there, he's watching you, that whole voyeuristic thing about him, which is also, I'm pretty sure, it didn't originate with this movie. There's a famous horror movie called Peeping Tom, but it's fully realized in this film where he's kind of watching you the whole time, and they do a lot of, from his point of view, watching her in the kitchen while she's about to put her clothes in the laundry, and you're seeing it from the killer's point of view. That's very effective too. So Donald Pleasence, Dr. Loomis, really effective. How they use him as like this Old Testament voice of doom. Death has come to your small town. It's so awesome. I mean, honestly, it's fun even talking about it. It's fun even thinking about it. I can't wait to watch it again this year. It's one of those it's just such a satisfying little party of a movie. And then, of course, the last thing, which has become a terrible trope in movies. It's really been overused. Well, no, not the last thing. The second to last thing, which I've already mentioned, is the killer who can't be killed, which has become really overused. The other thing which is the last thing, is the hint of supernatural. Now, they don't overplay it at all. They say, who was that? The boogeyman. Who's the boogeyman? It's only brought up like 3 or 4 times, and then you couple that with the fact that he seemingly can't be killed. That's awesomely realized. It's almost perfect. Why? Because it doesn't overdo it. They don't say he's supernatural. They don't make a big thing out of him being the boogeyman. Nowadays, a movie would totally overplay that. They'd have an origin scene or something, and they'd ruin it. What they do is just kind of allude to the fact that this may be the boogeyman, this may be pure evil, this may be a supernatural force, and the only evidence of that is the fact that he seemingly can't be killed. Other than that, he seems to be recognizably human, a little bit stronger than your average than your average killer, a little bit stronger than most people. Can pull a man, hold a man above his head for a period of time. So he's strong, but it's not completely supernatural. It just hints at supernatural. That's expert. That's expert. It totally gets under your skin. Was that the boogeyman? Who was that? That was the boogeyman. And then that coupled with the Donald Pleasance, death has come to your small town. What I saw behind his eyes was pure evil. Just kind of alludes to the fact this may have been a supernatural force. They could have done that in Jaws too. They don't do it in Jaws at all. You're just, it's a shark that's really big. That's a powerful shark. But they don't allude to the fact that it's some sort of primal force of nature. They allude to it in Halloween really effectively, that he's some sort of primal killing machine, bent on evil. Now, I never saw the Season of the Witch, the one where they Curse of Michael Myers, where they go into the occult background. I've heard mixed things about that. Some people say it's good. Some people say it's not worth seeing. I just never happened to have caught it. Now, the killer who can't be killed, and that's sort of alluding to supernatural. That gets fully realized in Friday the 13th Part 2. Another party of a movie, actually. It's a very, very fun slasher movie. I saw that one originally in the theater. And, that's the famous that's the first time Jason Voorhees appears. You might not know that if you haven't seen the series. The original Friday the 13th, he only appears at the end, in a really effective jump scare, but he's not actually the killer in the movie. I won't tell you who it is, but you should know that. So the second one is where Jason appears sans hockey mask. I didn't realize that until I was, reading up a little before I made this video. I was like, oh, wait, he doesn't have a hockey mask? I remember he was wearing a hockey mask. He wasn't. So that was before he even donned the hockey mask. But he seems to be a supernatural force that can't be killed. So they take that, they borrow that from Halloween. Michael Myers seems to be some sort of, it's never specified, seems to have powers more than an ordinary human, seems to be stronger than an ordinary human and unkillable. And they allude to the fact that this might be some sort of primal evil, a boogeyman, or just something that appears at Halloween in human form. And all of that makes it a masterpiece. You put all those ingredients together with the score, the classic score, it's a masterpiece. As I say, if you're a fan of horror movies, this is the original slasher flick. Yes, Dark Christmas is technically the first slasher flick, but this is the one that really put it on the map. And some of the tropes have been borrowed from it to ill effect. They really can get annoying. But this one, you got to put yourself in the shoes to realize what a perfectly realized little gem of a horror movie this is. Put yourself in the shoes of the film goer circa 1978, and you don't know what you're about to see. So you're setting off on this journey that's within an hour, you're going to see him slashing people. But to set the stage for that, very economically, they freak you out with his presence. They have him sort of appearing in the shadows. Little kids bump into him. He slows down a car to just kind of he's passive aggressive. He winds up being aggressive, but he starts out pretty passive aggressive. So you put all of that together and you have the perfect masterpiece, little gem of a horror movie. It's really, really, really awesome. If you haven't seen it, don't watch anything else about it. Try and go in as innocent as humanly possible and watch it on Halloween night with all the lights off. I'm pretty sure it's streaming on something. I usually find it for free every year. Maybe on even Amazon this year. I don't remember where I found it last year, but I generally have an easy time finding it streaming for free. So I've watched it every year for about the last 7 years. And like I said, it's the one. It's the gold standard of horror movies. It's the best the best, one of the best, if not, in fact, the best slasher movie ever made. And that's it. Those are the ingredients. Very, very simple ingredients. You know, it's not overly ambitious. It's just really effective, very short, very economical, gets under your skin, freaks you out. You know, it's the one. It's a masterpiece of film economy. It's very similar to Jaws in that sense. Jaws isn't overly ambitious either. If you haven't watched that in a long time, same idea. Gets under your skin and then it, you know, moves quickly to the final denouement. So there you have it, kids. Halloween, 1978, the original John Carpenter classic. Some of the things that make it great, why it's great, why it will remain great. Go see it on Halloween. If you haven't seen it, if you have never seen it, and you like horror movies, try to really, really make it count. Watch it alone, lights out, on Halloween night, and really try to freak yourself out ahead of time. You will not be disappointed. It's the best there is. It's the gold standard. So, with that, everybody have a happy Halloween. That is all.